Here's the 5-step approach to problem solving that shows up in section 1.2. Okay, the steps, some people have a first step that is read the problem. I'm not going to include that in my 5-step approach. The first step is identify the variable. In math, usually you're trying to solve for a quantity. If you don't know what you're trying to solve for, you're probably not going to get it. So first off, figure out what you're trying to solve for. We usually call that a variable or an unknown. Then we're going to write an equation involving that variable. So write equation. Sometimes it'll be a couple of equations, so let me put possibly plural equations. The equation should always involve the variable. If you don't have an equation involving the variable, it's going to be really hard to solve for the variable. Okay. Solve equation. Maybe this goes without saying. If you know what you're looking for, you have an equation or equations involving it, then you're going to solve those equations to find out the unknown or the variable you're looking for. Finally, write the solution. And fifth, check. Now, ironically, in math land, often what we do is we're given the equation and we solve a lot of equations. And these are important steps. This is what you do probably most in a traditional math class. Realistically, these 2 steps are incredibly important in the real world. Okay? Often you don't know what you're looking for. You're trying to make the company more profitable. You're trying to predict who's going to be an insurance risk. You're trying to figure out what you're looking for. So recognize this is a process. Finding the variable, perhaps I should say variables, because eventually you'll be dealing with multiples. And writing the equation actually take a ton of time. This is what we probably practice most in class, but we'll try and work you through the whole process. Then finally, looking at your answer saying, is this reasonable? Is there a reason this doesn't work? Often we skip this entirely in a math class. Shame on us. This is a big, big deal. Your boss will never be happy if you come up with a solution. It looks good on paper, but it's totally useless elsewise. So just recognize these are big parts of problem solving. Okay? So I came up with about the simplest problem I could come up with here. First off, I'll read it. Corey wants to make $1,000. She earns $10 per hour. How long must she work to achieve her goal? Well, this problem's probably so simple that you could do it without any problem-solving technique, but having good habits, doing the right thing to start with, is going to make you better when the problem's a lot harder. So what do? We read the problem, we identify the variable. Usually in traditional problems, the variable comes at the end. So how long? What's the goal? How long? So our variable is t, let's say, time Corey works. Okay? Now, I'd like an equation. I gave myself a simple problem. There'll be other places where we'll work through together problems that are a lot harder than this. But what equation relates to the time Corey works? Well, you can see this is a rate. And you've heard it said probably rate times time equals distance. This is really helpful. If you're going 10 miles an hour for 1 hour, you go 10 miles. Rate times time equals whatever the rate was in terms of. This is dollars per hour. So if we multiply dollars times t, the number of hours, we'll get the total dollars. Just file that away somewhere. Rate times time doesn't quite equal dollar, but it equals the total, okay? So now once I have this, pretty easy to solve. I'll divide both sides by 10. T equals 100. Voila! I can write my solution. Corey must work 100 hours. And then the 5 often goes without saying because it seems sort of intuitive, but everybody who's successful at problem solving, somewhere in the back of their head, pauses, even if it's just for half a second, make sure, okay, is 100 hours reasonable? Is 100 hours a reasonable thing? Okay, it's not a negative number, it's not the amount of time left until the sun implodes. Yeah, this is a reasonable answer, and 100 times the $10 an hour will be 1,000.